Hey folks, Triple Crown here, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. This is a round 11 summary of the BBR Solo Alternative Universe game that I'm playing. Now, we're going into round 11, and I did make a mistake. The game can either be played in 10 rounds, 15 rounds, or unlimited. Now, you have to decide this before. For some reason, I had in my brain it was 12. But that is, they need 12 victory cities. So I don't normally always play this game until the end, simply because I'm doing a lot of play testing. So I apologize for getting that wrong. But if there was 12 victory cities, currently, these are the BBR, what do you call them? Roundels, but they are used as victory city indicators in the BBR series. So Doug is currently developing something similar for 39. So you can see here, the Axis currently have control of 7 of the victory cities. Now that's Berlin, Tokyo, Rome, Shanghai, Warsaw, Hong Kong. In South Asia, that's actually Singapore. So currently on the table for round 12, which is going to be the final round that I'm going to play, is Manila, which the Japanese should be able to secure that. Calcutta, which there's going to be a massive battle coming up. Paris, another massive battle coming up. And if the Germans can secure Leningrad and Stalingrad, they have to do both. And we will get into, currently, there are other cities they will not be able to take, so we're not going to worry about those. So I'm going to get this out of the way. Now, as you're projecting in this game, it's good to be mindful of what your objectives are. Now, I probably was, if I wanted to do a 12-round game, too late for Germany to make it all the way to Stalingrad, but we're going to get into that. So over here, I'm going to call this the Ragtag Navy, has made their way into Dutch New Guinea with a couple armor. They built a couple more transports next turn, so they can branch out and do some damage here next turn, but they can also make it to Singapore, which is a victory city. So the Japanese, depending on what they do, they're going to have to be very mindful of that to either do some kind of naval blockade or to defend that. So that's going to be interesting. Now, currently here we have a massive showdown happening. Now, this is a game of attrition. You know, how many units can Japan get down to Siam, ground units and aircraft, to be able to hit Calcutta, and how many can the Far East Command defend? Now, currently, there's about 32 units defending Calcutta, and Japan can hit it with 10 fully loaded transports next turn and their entire air force plus coastal bombard. So that sounds pretty close. However, Calcutta does have the great equalizer in this battle, which is the fortification, which gives all of the Japanese a -1 on the first round of combat and 10 infantry for the FEC, a +1, plus an extra 2 rolling at 5. So that's going to be a close battle. I do give the edge currently to Calcutta. We'll see. Japan does have 2 medium bombers there. They roll 2 dice at 4, so that's going to bump them up a little bit. So there's quite a lot of the Japanese Air Force here. So that's going to be interesting. Japan did build a couple, I think 3 naval transports next turn. These navies are outclassed by currently the American Navy here. So that could be a showdown there too if America wants to take a swing at the Japanese fleet. Japan currently does not have a lot of heavy hitters other than their couple Yamatos there. And America does have the use of its full air force and some cannon fodder with their carrier. So that's going to be an interesting battle next turn. Currently over here, the KMT has sent the farm to Szechuan to defend against these 10 fast-moving Japanese units, which are sitting 1 territory away. I believe this is Chunghupe. And also the KMT has made its way to Kwang Sea. So they could liberate Hong Kong next turn, depending on what the Japanese do. They go first, so they could send these guys there to defend, or they could. So there's the KMT is giving the Japanese something to think about. Over here on the CCP, they had 3 IPP to spend, so they built their last guy here in defense. The Russians have pushed now all the way to the coast of Russia, so they've liberated all their territories except for, what is this, Vladivostok? Now currently, this is all of the combined Russians and British forces defending Kharkov, because the Germans are making a push for Stalingrad, and I think they're gonna, the Germans just don't have enough units to push through. This is currently about 65, 66 units defending versus this 57 or 58 units of the Germans. So they just do not have the forces to push through. Unfortunately, so next turn the Russians, they built up in Moscow some what I call their heavy hitters, some KV-2s, some regular armor, and they've got a tactical bomber, a fighter, and a light armor there. So the Germans could be on the defensive next turn. However, the Germans did leave Leningrad open. They've got a couple infantry there, a couple heavy tanks sitting in Valpuri, and so it's going to be interesting here what happens with Leningrad. That's probably going to fall in German hands next turn, whether or not the Russians have enough to take it back if their objective is to take out the Germans sitting here. So they're going to have to make some decisions there. The Italians did the Germans a favor. There was some ping pong action in Bulgaria. The British also, because now they've got a navy here. They just grabbed all their units here and a couple transports down here off Cairo and came up and took western Ukraine. So they got rid of the Italian Air Force that was there. So that was a priority for them. They sent in their entire Air Force and about 6 or 7 ground units. So the Italian Air Force did not stand a chance. However, the Italians did liberate Bulgaria from the British, and they also liberated Marseille from the British, who went in and played some ping pong in the Marseille. And the Germans have doubled down with the Italians to see if they can defend Paris. I've got currently some markers out here. So currently, the Germans have about, let's say, about 35 units defending Paris. And over here, the Americans and the British have about, they still got their heavy bombers in London, but about 18 units there. And the Americans have about 40. So it's going to be a 1-2 swing with the British going first. The British do have their Spitfires and heavy bombers, which are the Lancasters. However, the Germans do have their AAA, which gets to engage first. And the Americans, they went heavy. They went heavy in their bombers. They built 3 heavy bombers, or which the B-17s, and also the B-29 Super Fortresses. So that the B-17s roll 3 dice at 4, and the B-29s roll 4 dice at 4. So that's going to be an extra 20 dice at 4 coming at these guys. Mind you, round 1 they are going to be defending -1, because there is actually, the Germans did build a fortification there. So I forgot to mention that. So that is the great equalizer when you're playing defense. So a little bit of a showdown happening. There's going to be probably major battle over here, potentially a major battle here, whether the Germans decide to go first and take a poke over here. Nice that the British were able to land all their aircraft in Kharkov to reinforce the Germans and bring up some armor and about 4 infantry. So they might have been able to save Stalingrad, and the Germans did not plan a turn or two ahead quick enough to make sure they had the forces to punch through and make it all the way to Stalingrad. So that's what's happening. There's also a South African that's there. It's my new South African paint job. Anyways, that's all we got for round 12, I think. America over here, okay? So yeah, big battle over here coming up. They're also going to have to defend Singapore, like I mentioned. So stay tuned for the final battle of round 12 coming up. Thanks for watching, folks.